When his maid didn't show up, the Alpha King went himself and saw the truth. From his tower, the Alpha King Erendor watched the waves crash against jagged rocks far below, a storm gathering in the distance like a mirror of the turmoil in his mind. His castle, a fortress of gray stone and spires, loomed over the kingdom like a watchful sentinel. Within its walls, secrets were kept, whispers lingered in dark corners, and even the bravest of souls trembled before his presence. Yet today, something unusual gnawed at him. A simple thing, something that should have required no more than routine attention, but it had not happened. His maid, Saris, had not arrived. At first, Erendor had assumed delay, perhaps an errand running late or a forgotten task. But as the hours stretched, a cold sense of unease settled in his chest. Saris had been more than a mere maid. She was a keeper of quiet confidences, a thread of calm in the storm of the castle's power. He trusted her in ways he trusted no other. And now, without a word or warning, she had vanished. "Guards," he called, his voice cutting through the stone corridors like a blade. It was calm, controlled, but there was an edge to it, a subtle tremor that only the trained could notice. "Search the halls, every wing, every chamber, find her." The guards bowed and hurried off, but Erendor's instincts told him that this was not merely a matter of misplaced presence. There was something deeper, something hidden, something waiting in the shadows. He moved through the castle himself, tall and commanding, every step echoing across the cold marble floors. The flickering torchlight cast long shadows, painting the walls with shapes that seemed alive. Tapestries of past kings and queens stared down at him, their painted eyes sharp with judgment or warning. He paused at a mirror, its silver frame tarnished with age. He saw not only his reflection but the faint impression of someone else, a fleeting shadow that vanished when he blinked. "Saris," he whispered, more to himself than to anyone else. "Where are you?" No answer came, only the whisper of wind through the open windows. The trail began in the servants' wing. Erendor noticed a broken mirror on the floor, shards scattered across the cold stone. A faint smell of herbs, crushed or burned, lingered in the air, and a small, intricate sigil glimmered faintly on the wall before fading like a dying flame. These were subtle signs, signs that someone, or something, had been here, signs that Saris had left under duress or caution. He followed the signs like a predator following prey, though there was no malice in him, only concern and growing worry. Every corridor seemed longer than it should have been, every doorway a gate to mystery. The castle itself seemed to stretch and twist around him, as if it were conspiring to hide what he sought. He reached the garden, a place usually serene and quiet, where flowers bloomed even in the chill of winter under enchanted care. The moonlight painted silver over frost-tipped petals, and the fountain at the center gurgled a soft, mournful tune. It was here that he first saw the footprints. They were faint, almost ethereal, pressed lightly into the soft earth of the garden path. Erendor knelt, tracing the pattern with a gloved hand. The prints were small, delicate, and yet each step carried urgency and fear. They led toward the edge of the garden, where a wall of ivy climbed high, and there, a door that should not have been there. It was an old, unmarked door, hidden by vines that seemed to cling with purpose. Erendor's heart tightened. His fingers hovered over the cold iron handle. Something about this door felt alive, as if it were aware of his presence. A soft pulse of magic vibrated through the air, brushing against his mind. He did not hesitate. He opened the door. A chill escaped, like a breath from another world, and the corridor beyond was narrow and dark, winding deep into parts of the castle even he rarely explored. The walls glimmered with faint runes, glowing briefly with a pale blue light before fading into shadow. The air smelled of damp stone and old memories. "Saris," he called again, his voice steady now, more commanding than worried. "Answer me." "I will not leave until I know you are safe." Silence answered. He walked further, the corridor twisting unnaturally, almost as if it were alive. The shadows moved with him, stretching and curling like smoke, whispering in voices he could not understand. A sense of being watched prickled his skin, yet he pressed forward. He had never feared the dark nor the unknown, but tonight the castle felt different, alive in a way that was neither fully hostile nor benign. Finally, he reached a chamber, hidden beneath layers of stone and secrecy. The door here was carved with intricate symbols of protection, some ancient, some forbidden. Erendor traced them with a careful hand. The air hummed with restrained magic. Inside he found signs of struggle, subtle but undeniable. A chair overturned, a candle melted unevenly, and on the floor, a faint shimmer of a barrier, something that had been broken or escaped from. His gaze swept the room, lingering on a small, folded piece of cloth. It was hers. A soft voice whispered through the chamber, though it came from nowhere. "He comes." Erendor's breath caught. He did not flinch, but his mind raced. The voice was not hostile, not cruel, but it was filled with knowledge and caution. Knowledge that Saris was in danger, and caution that he might not be ready to face what had claimed her. "Show yourself," he demanded. "I am the king of Valoria. I will not be denied." There was a silence so deep it seemed to swallow sound itself. Then from the corner of the room, a figure appeared, shimmering like mist, not fully solid. Erendor's sharp eyes caught her shape. Saris. Her hair fell around her shoulders like midnight waves, her eyes wide with fear, yet holding a glimmer of defiance. "I cannot stay," she whispered, stepping back. "Not yet. He watches. The curse, it is not over." Erendor's chest tightened. He felt a strange tug, a mixture of fear, anger, and longing. He had never been denied, never in his life. And yet here before him, Saris was not entirely free, not entirely present. "I will not leave you," he said firmly. "Whatever binds you, I will undo it. You will not vanish from my sight again." Her eyes flickered, something unspoken passing between them. She wanted to believe him, she wanted to trust him, but the weight of unseen magic pressed upon her. "You cannot," she said softly. "Not alone, and not yet." Erendor's hand reached out instinctively, hovering near her shoulder, but he did not touch. There was a respect here, a boundary he had never considered before. She was not merely his maid, nor his confidant. She was someone with power, even if hidden, and her fear was not for him, but for herself. The room pulsed faintly, as if the castle itself were holding its breath. Outside, the wind carried the cries of the sea, echoing like distant voices calling warnings. Erendor's mind sharpened. Whatever had taken her, whatever had drawn her into the shadows, it was ancient, clever, and dangerous. He stepped closer, his voice softer now, almost a whisper of promise. "Then we face it together. I will not abandon you. Not now, not ever." For a moment, Saris's defenses wavered. She wanted to believe him. She wanted the warmth of safety, the relief of being protected. But the shadows stirred, moving like liquid around the edges of the room, and a chill brushed her skin. "You must understand," she said, trembling. "Once it sees you, it will not let go. You are marked as well." Erendor's heart clenched. Marked? For what? By whom? The questions raced, but he did not retreat. Fear was irrelevant now. His purpose was singular. He would not leave her to this fate. Not her, not anyone he cared for. The shadows seemed to react, curling closer, whispering warnings only he could feel. The magic here was old, patient, and it watched him as keenly as he watched Saris. And yet he would not falter. Not while she stood before him, fragile yet strong. He took a slow breath, steadying himself, and said, "Then tell me what I must do. Show me. I will follow you anywhere." Saris's eyes glistened in the dim light, a mixture of fear, relief, and something unspoken, a connection that went beyond words. She wanted to protect him, but the path ahead was dangerous, and even she did not fully understand it. The chamber seemed to contract around them, the shadows deepening, the air thick with tension. Then, as if answering some silent call, the wall behind Saris shimmered. A faint, swirling mist appeared, forming shapes that danced like flames. It was a gateway, a passage to something beyond, something neither of them could fully comprehend. Erendor stepped forward without hesitation. He did not know what awaited, but he knew one truth: he would face it. For her, for them. And as he crossed the threshold, the air whispered one final, chilling warning. Once you enter, nothing will remain the same. Erendor's jaw tightened. He welcomed it. Change had always been the kingdom's enemy, but tonight it would become his ally. Together, king and maid, master and confidant, they stepped into the unknown, leaving the familiar stone halls behind. The mist enveloped them, cold and alive, and Erendor's hand brushed against hers, not in possession but in silent promise. The night stretched on, long and infinite, as the first trials of shadows and secrets waited to greet them. The mist clung to their skin like cold silk, curling around them in tendrils that whispered of things forgotten and forbidden. Erendor's hand brushed against Ceres' as they stepped into the hidden passage, a silent promise of protection and trust. The air was thick with magic, old and restless, and every step they took echoed in the narrow corridor like the heartbeat of the castle itself. Ceres led the way, though her eyes darted constantly to the shadows that danced along the walls. This passage, it wasn't meant for ordinary use, she murmured, her voice trembling despite her effort to remain calm. It was built by those who knew secrets of the old world. Only the clever or the desperate could find it. Erendor's gaze swept the corridor. Symbols glimmered faintly along the stone walls, runes etched with care centuries ago, their meanings half lost to time. Some shimmered and vanished, leaving behind a residue of unease. Clever and desperate, he repeated, a ghost of a smile on his lips. Seems we fit the description perfectly. Ceres's lips twitched in a brief, unspoken acknowledgement. She led him down winding paths that bent in ways impossible to measure, corridors folding over themselves as if reality had grown tired of the usual rules. The air grew colder, heavier, and a distant sound reached their ears, the faintest echo of chains, a melody of despair. "Do you hear that?" Ceres whispered. Erendor's jaw tightened. He did. A soft, rhythmic clinking like iron brushing against stone carried an undertone of anguish. He did not flinch. He had faced rebellions, assassins, and wars. Yet the sound unsettled him in a way that pure danger never had. It carried weight, it carried fear, and above all it carried truth. "It's not ordinary," he said, voice low, almost to himself. "It's something old, something bound." Ceres nodded, moving closer to him. "It's a spirit or a curse, something that latches onto those it chooses. That's why I disappeared. It sensed you would come. It's drawn to power." Erendor's eyes narrowed. Power had always been his domain. He had never felt powerless before. Yet here, in this winding passage, he sensed the shift, his control faltering, replaced by a quiet vulnerability. Ceres felt it too, and her fear was mirrored in his chest like a hammering pulse. The passage ended abruptly at a chamber carved into the living rock. The air here was warmer, yet heavy, filled with a faint glow from veins of magical energy that pulsed along the walls. In the center, a translucent figure hovered, its form half shadow, half light. Its presence filled the room with a palpable tension like a storm waiting to break. "Step back," Ceres warned, her hand gripping his sleeve. "It tests you. It knows you are not alone." Erendor did not move. He stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "I am not afraid." "Whatever you are, you will not harm her." The shadow stirred. It stretched and bent, its voice a chorus of whispers, soft but sharp. "You enter willingly. You will not leave unchanged." Erendor's fingers curled into fists. "I will leave only with her." The figure shimmered, revealing glimpses of Ceres's face intertwined with strange symbols. Her eyes widened. "It knows me," she breathed. "It knows the truth of my lineage, of my blood. It seeks to test me, to bind me again." Erendor stepped closer, reaching out a hand. "Then we face it together. Whatever it shows, whatever it asks, we do not falter." The shadow seemed to react, recoiling slightly from the force of his will. It stretched and twisted, and in its form, Saris saw images, flashes of the past. A young girl hidden in forests, learning magic in secret, a family betrayed by those who claimed loyalty, and most sharply a glimpse of Erendor himself, alone in the throne room, eyes haunted by isolation. "You see yourself," she whispered. "It shows us what we fear most. It feeds on regret." Erendor's gaze met hers. "Then we do not feed it, we face it together." The shadow pulsed violently, sending a ripple of cold through the chamber. Saris's hand trembled as she reached for his, and their fingers intertwined. The connection was small, silent, yet powerful, an acknowledgement that neither would face this alone. Suddenly, the chamber shifted. The walls became mirrors, reflecting not their forms but their fears, desires, and memories. Saris saw herself, powerless, watched, and alone. Erendor saw his own mistakes, the walls he built around himself to keep the world at bay, and the emptiness those walls brought. "This is not a trap," Erendor said softly. "It is a reflection of what we are, what we could become. Do not let it frighten you." Saris swallowed, her eyes glistening. "I fear I cannot protect you if I fail." "You already protect me," he said. "By trusting me, by being here, that is strength." The shadow seemed to understand. Its form shifted, showing visions of Valoria, its streets, its people, and the magic that once bound the kingdom together. The shadow whispered, "The curse is older than you, older than her. It waits. Only together can it be undone." Erendor's eyes hardened. "Then we begin now. Show us what must be done." The chamber trembled, and a new path opened, veiled in mist. Through it, they could glimpse corridors carved into the earth itself, glowing faintly with symbols of old magic. It was a path to the heart of the castle, to secrets Saris had never dared approach, and to dangers that would test everything they knew. Saris hesitated. No one has ever returned from that path unchanged. Erendor reached for her, his grip firm but gentle. "We will return. Together, I will not leave you to this alone. Not now, not ever." Her breath caught, and for a moment the mist around them seemed to soften, bending toward them as if acknowledging his promise. The bond between them deepened, not through possession, but through mutual trust and the quiet acknowledgement of shared strength. As they stepped into the new passage, the shadows thickened and the whispering grew louder. Images of the past, warnings of the future, and truths long hidden surrounded them. Saris's heart raced. She had been trained to resist the shadow, to hide her lineage, to survive in secrecy. Yet now she could not hide from the king, nor did she wish to. Erendor felt her tension, her hesitation, and his own chest ached with something unfamiliar: care, worry, and the deep pull of attachment that was no longer just responsibility, but something more profound. A sudden cry echoed through the corridor, a sound that was neither entirely human nor entirely spirit. Both froze. The mist shifted violently, revealing glimpses of a figure bound in chains, its eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "Do you see it?" Saris whispered. Erendor's gaze was fixed. "Yes, and we will not falter." The shadow figure in the chains thrashed, sending sparks of magic into the air. "You cannot save her alone," it hissed. "One must be lost for the other to live." Erendor's jaw clenched. "Then we are not alone." "And we do not believe you." The figure recoiled, its form blurring into the mist. The corridor ahead twisted further, revealing a staircase spiraling downward, glowing faintly with runes that pulsed like a heartbeat. Erendor and Saris exchanged a glance. This was no longer a simple rescue. It was a journey into the depths of magic, into the heart of the curse, and into the truth of who they were and who they might become. Saris stepped forward, letting him guide her hand in his. The connection was electric, grounding them both. Each step down the staircase felt like a step away from the world they knew and into one where magic, danger, and truth waited in equal measure. At the bottom, the air was thick with enchantment. The walls glowed faintly, and images of the past, of betrayal, courage, and loss played across them. Saris realized the shadow had not just trapped her. It had tested her, taught her, and revealed the weight of her own power. "You have grown stronger than you know," Erendor said quietly, his voice carrying pride that made her heart flutter despite the fear. She looked at him, a soft, fleeting smile touching her lips. "And you are not as unyielding as you pretend." He allowed himself a rare chuckle, the sound echoing strangely in the chamber. "Perhaps I am learning." The staircase ended in a chamber larger than any they had seen, filled with the remnants of old magic, books, relics, and faintly glowing crystals. And at its center, a mirror of water perfectly still, reflected not just their images but possibilities. Kingdoms falling, alliances broken, victories gained, and love blossoming amidst chaos. Saris stepped closer, peering into the reflection. "The shadow, it wants us to see the future, to understand the cost of what we face." Erendor joined her, placing a hand lightly on her shoulder. "Then we will face it together. Whatever comes, we endure, we transform, we survive, and we protect each other." The water rippled, and in its depths, they saw a vision of themselves standing side by side. Not as king and maid, not as master and servant, but as equals bound by trust, courage, and love. But beneath the vision lurked darkness, whispering threats that neither of them could fully comprehend yet. The shadow still watched, patient, knowing that the true trials had only just begun. Erendor's grip on Saris's hand tightened. "We go forward," he said, voice resolute. "No turning back. The truth waits and we will not falter." Saris nodded, courage flickering in her eyes despite the fear. "Together," she said. The chamber seemed to breathe around them, the echoes of the past mingling with the possibilities of the future. And in the corner of the room, faintly glowing eyes watched, ancient and patient, promising trials, revelations, and the ultimate test of their bond. The forest beyond the castle walls was unlike any Erendor had seen. Trees stretched higher than towers, their twisted branches tangled like fingers reaching toward the sky. A perpetual fog drifted through the roots and stones, carrying whispers that spoke of old magic, lost kings, and secrets best left undisturbed. Every footstep on the damp earth felt heavy, as if the forest itself weighed their resolve. Erendor led the way, Saris close at his side. Their hands brushed now and then, a quiet acknowledgement of connection. In silence, they moved deeper, past moss-covered stones and streams that glimmered with strange light. The forest seemed to shift around them, pathways appearing and vanishing as though guiding them toward a truth they could not yet see. "This place," Saris whispered, her voice trembling despite her attempt at courage, "it tests more than our strength. It tests our hearts, our intentions, even our fears." Erendor's gaze was steady. "Then we show it our hearts," he said. "We show it our courage. No shadow can overcome what is true." They came upon a clearing, lit faintly by silver light that fell through the gaps in the trees. In the center stood a figure draped in shadow, motionless yet radiating presence. Its eyes glowed faintly, a mix of sorrow and warning. Saris's breath caught and she clutched Erendor's sleeve. "It knows us," she whispered. "It sees every choice we've made, every regret." The shadow moved, stretching and folding like smoke. "Those who enter here must face themselves," it said, voice soft yet sharp, echoing across the clearing. "Only by seeing your truth can you proceed." Erendor took a deep breath, stepping closer to the figure. "Then we face it together." The shadow pulsed, and suddenly the clearing shifted. The ground beneath their feet became glassy, reflecting memories they had tried to forget. Saris saw herself as a child, hiding from those who sought her secret, learning magic in secret. Erendor saw his own youth, the long nights spent on the throne, the walls he built around himself that left him alone despite the world at his feet. Saris whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "I cannot face all of this. It hurts too much." Erendor reached for her, gently lifting her chin so their eyes met. "Then you do not face it alone. I am here. Every step, every fear, every shadow. You do not face them alone." Her hand found his, and for a moment the forest seemed to pause. The mist softened, curling gently around them like a protective embrace. The shadow recoiled slightly, and the glass beneath them rippled, showing visions not just of past pain, but of strength, resilience, and courage they had both ignored in themselves. "You are stronger than you know," Erendor said softly, "and not because you fight alone, but because you allow yourself to feel." Saris nodded, wiping away a tear. "And you are not as unyielding as you pretend." He smiled faintly, a rare softness touching his features. "Perhaps I am learning." The glassy floor rippled again, and this time it showed not only memories but choices yet to come. Paths diverged, some bright and full of hope, others dark and twisted. The shadow whispered, "Only by embracing what is hidden within will you find the way forward. Only by trusting each other can you survive the trials ahead." Erendor's jaw tightened. "Then we trust, completely. No hesitation, no fear. We face it together, whatever comes." The forest trembled around them, leaves rustling like wings of unseen creatures. A faint glow appeared along the path before them, revealing stairs carved into the roots of an ancient tree. The runes along the steps pulsed softly, a rhythm that matched the heartbeat of the forest. As they ascended, each step brought visions of both hope and warning. Saris glimpsed herself standing alone on the castle battlements, her magic restrained, powerless to stop what had been set in motion. Erendor saw the throne room empty, the kingdom vulnerable to forces he had long ignored. And between these visions he saw himself with Saris, hand in hand, facing storms and shadows together, stronger than either could be alone. "This place," Saris whispered, "it does not forgive mistakes. It does not hide danger. Every choice matters." Erendor's eyes met hers, unwavering. "Then we choose carefully, but together. Whatever we face as one." At the top of the stairway, the forest opened to a chamber bathed in pale light. Crystals hung from the ceiling like icicles, casting rainbows across the walls. In the center, a pool of water reflected not their faces but their potential. Erendor and Saris peered into it, and for the first time they saw not fear but possibility. "You see it?" Erendor asked. "What we could become?" Saris nodded, her hand brushing his. "Yes, but the shadow still waits. It watches, it tests. It will not yield easily." A sudden movement in the corner of the chamber made them both tense. Another shadow, smaller, more agile, darted across the wall. Its presence was less threatening than the first, yet no less powerful. It whispered a warning: "The bonds you build will be tested. One will falter, one will endure, and only the truth will remain." Erendor's jaw clenched. "We will endure, not one step backward. Not one moment of doubt. We face it together as equals." Saris's eyes glistened. She had faced fear before, yet never like this. The forest, the shadows, the visions, they revealed every weakness, every secret, every longing she had hidden from the world. And yet in Erendor's presence the fear was tempered by trust, the longing by the possibility of something stronger than fear, connection. "Do you feel it?" she whispered. "The forest, it's alive. It feels us, knows us." Erendor nodded. "And it tests us, to see if we are worthy of what lies ahead." The chamber trembled and the pool of water rippled violently. From its depths, a vision rose, a castle consumed by shadow, its people fleeing in terror. And yet in the same vision, Erendor and Saris stood together, light radiating from them, holding the kingdom in balance. "The choice is ours," he said, voice firm. "We decide what becomes of this kingdom, and what becomes of us." Saris looked at him, heart pounding. I trust you. Even in this darkness I trust you." Erendor's hand found hers, holding it tightly. "And I trust you, not just as my ally but as someone who shares my heart." A pulse of magic surged through the chamber and the shadows recoiled, revealing a path forward. Beyond lay the final trial, a part of the forest untouched by time, where the curse's heart waited, patient and cunning. The path was dangerous, filled with unseen hazards and tests of strength, courage, and will. Erendor and Saris exchanged a glance, understanding that there was no turning back. The trials had stripped them of fear, revealed their vulnerabilities, and forged their bond stronger than either could have imagined. Yet the heart of the curse awaited, and it would demand everything they had. As they stepped forward, the forest seemed to sigh, leaves rustling like a chorus of approval and warning. Every step was a declaration. They would face the shadow, the curse, and their own hearts together. And then, as if answering some unspoken challenge, the air shimmered, and a figure appeared before them. Not entirely human, not entirely shadow, but a being of both, radiating power and sorrow. Its eyes, deep and knowing, fixed on Erendor. The one who leads must choose who to save and who to trust. The heart of the forest watches and it judges. Erendor's chest tightened. I will not choose between her and anything else. We face this as one. The figure's gaze softened slightly and the whispers in the forest stilled. Then you may proceed, but the final trial will reveal the truth of your bond. Only together will you survive. Only together will you see the dawn. Saris squeezed his hand. We are ready, she said. Erendor nodded, feeling a surge of determination. Then forward, he commanded, voice echoing like thunder. Into the heart of the forest and into the truth we must face. The shadows parted, revealing a narrow path lined with stones glowing faintly with runes. Beyond, the darkness thickened, yet the glow of their bond lit the way. They stepped forward together into the unknown, their hands clasped, hearts steady, courage unwavering. The forest watched, ancient and patient. And in the deepest shadows, the final trial stirred, waiting for the moment to test the strength of trust, the courage of love, and the endurance of hearts bound together. The heart of the forest waited, alive with magic older than kingdoms. Shadows twisted among the trees, whispering secrets that only the brave or the foolish dared to hear. Erendor and Saris stepped forward together, their hands intertwined, the glow of trust and determination radiating from them like a light in the gathering darkness. At the center of a vast clearing, the curse revealed itself, a towering figure, its form shifting between shadow and flame. Eyes glimmered like molten gold, ancient and watchful, judging all who approached. Its presence was oppressive, yet beautiful in its terrible majesty. The air was heavy with power, thick with the hum of old magic, and every step toward it felt like walking through a storm. Erendor's jaw tightened. This is it, he said, the heart of the curse. Nothing lies beyond courage and truth. Saris nodded, her grip firm. We face it together. Whatever it demands, we answer as one. The figure shifted, its voice a chorus of whispers. Many have come before you, few have faced their truth. Only those whose hearts are unbroken can pass. Erendor stepped forward, unwavering. We do not fear the truth. Whatever it reveals, we endure it together. The curse's figure pulsed, and suddenly the ground beneath them became a mirror, reflecting not just their forms but their deepest fears, regrets, and desires. Saris saw herself alone, powerless, hiding from the world she had been taught to fear. Erendor saw the walls he had built around himself, keeping everyone at a distance, ruling without warmth, isolated in his power. It shows us our weaknesses, Saris whispered, trembling. Our failures. Erendor lifted her chin, meeting her gaze. Weakness is not defeat, recognizing it is strength, and we face it together. The figure leaned closer, eyes burning with intensity. And what of trust? Can you share it without fear? Can you see each other clearly and still choose to stay? Saris swallowed, nodding slowly. I choose him. Even knowing the danger, even knowing the curse, I choose him. Erendor's chest tightened and he nodded in return. And I choose her. Not as a servant, not as a pawn, but as my equal, my partner, my heart. A surge of magic pulsed through the clearing, rippling like waves across water. The curse's figure shrieked, not in pain but in surprise, and recoiled slightly. Such strength, such unity, few have faced me and chosen each other over fear. The mirrored ground shifted again, showing visions of Veloria, the kingdom in ruin, burning and abandoned, the people scattered. And then the same vision turned, showing Erendor and Sarah standing together, radiant, holding the kingdom in balance. "The path is not simple," the figure whispered. "You must endure temptation, loss, and doubt. Only by acknowledging every part of yourselves and each other can you break what has been bound for centuries." Sarah stepped forward, hand brushing Erendor's. "Then we endure, together, every fear, every shadow. We do not turn back." The figure's form shifted violently, sending gusts of wind through the clearing. Roots and branches writhed like serpents, trying to block their path. The curse was testing them, probing their resolve. Erendor tightened his grip on Saras's hand. "Stand firm. Do not falter." They moved forward, side by side, navigating the writhing forest. Each step was a challenge. Shadows reaching for them, illusions whispering doubts into their minds. Saras saw visions of herself abandoning him, of losing control, of succumbing to fear. Erendor saw himself leaving her behind, of choosing power over love, of failing the kingdom. But each time they reached for one another, grounding themselves in trust. Each time their bond grew stronger, radiating a light that pushed the shadows back. Finally, they reached the center of the clearing, a stone pedestal carved with symbols of protection and power. The curse's figure hovered above it, trembling as the combined strength of their hearts pressed against it. "You have endured," it said, voice softer now, tinged with respect. "You have faced yourselves and each other, but one final truth remains. Only by surrendering what is most precious will the binding break." Erendor glanced at Saras, understanding immediately. "We are ready," he said, voice steady. "Whatever it asks, we answer as one." The figure pulsed again, and suddenly the air shimmered with images. The castle, the kingdom, the people, all held in fragile balance. The curse demanded sacrifice, not of life, but of fear, doubt, and the walls they had built around themselves. Erendor closed his eyes, letting go of control, of pride, of the fear that he could not protect all he loved. Saras did the same, surrendering her doubt, her isolation, her fear of losing herself. Together, their hearts shone like twin stars, illuminating the darkness. The curse's figure wavered, then shattered into fragments of light that scattered into the air like fireflies. The oppressive weight lifted, leaving only a soft glow that spread through the forest, touching every leaf, every branch, every stone. Sarah sank to her knees, laughing softly, tears in her eyes. "It's over, we did it." Erendor knelt beside her, taking her hand in both of his. "Not just the curse," he said. "We did it for ourselves. We faced everything we feared and emerged stronger, together." The forest sighed around them, the mist lifting to reveal sunlight piercing through the trees. Birds sang, streams sparkled, and life returned to a place that had been frozen in shadow for centuries. Erendor and Saras rose, hands still intertwined. The bond they had forged in darkness now guided them into the light. Their connection was no longer one of obligation or secrecy, but of trust, respect, and love that had endured trial and shadow. "You saved more than me," Saras whispered. "You saved yourself too." "And you," he replied softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You showed me what it means to lead with courage, and with heart." They emerged from the forest to find the kingdom transformed. The storm that had loomed over Valoria lifted, revealing fields of green and towns alive with hope. The people looked to the castle, sensing the shift in power, in magic, in the king himself. Erendor returned to his throne, but he was not the same ruler. He ruled with compassion, tempered by experience, aware of the fragility and beauty of life. Sarah stood at his side, no longer merely a maid or confidant, but a partner, a guide, a heart he could rely on. Together they healed the kingdom, facing challenges not with fear but with wisdom and trust. The shadows that had lingered were now gone, not destroyed, but transformed, lessons rather than threats. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of gold and crimson, Erendor and Saras walked along the castle battlements. The wind carried the scent of the sea, the forest, and the promise of tomorrow. "You've grown," Erendor said, his voice quiet, filled with pride and affection. "Stronger than even I imagined." Sarah smiled, a soft, luminous curve of her lips. "And you have learned what it means to trust." He reached for her hand, holding it gently. "I will never forget what we faced, and I will never leave your side. Not as king and maid, but as equals, as partners, as—" He paused, searching her eyes for understanding. "As hearts bound together," she said softly. Erendor nodded, a smile breaking across his face. "Yes, as hearts bound together." The sun dipped below the horizon, casting the castle in golden light. The kingdom of Valoria stood strong, healed, and vibrant. And in the hearts of Erendor and Saris, a bond had formed that no shadow, no curse, and no time could break. The trials had ended, but their story had only begun. Together, they faced the dawn, ready to shape their kingdom, their lives, and their love. The forest behind them was quiet now, resting in peace, its magic forever intertwined with theirs. And in that quiet, serene moment, the Alpha King and the maid who had vanished and returned understood a truth more profound than any magic. True power lies not in ruling with fear, but in facing shadow together, trusting, and allowing hearts to transform. The night fell softly and stars shimmered above the castle. Erendor and Sarah stood side by side, hands clasped, hearts aligned, knowing that whatever tomorrow brought, they would endure together.